start of the new year, I thought that now would be a great time to share my tips and tricks for how I stay motivated and productive when it comes to my doll collection. I do want to say that I'm naturally, when I'm in a mentally healthy state, I'm naturally a very energetic person. I have a lot of motivation within me to get things done, and I get bored easily. So to sit and vegetate and not get things done doesn't appeal to me for a long period of time. But even if you aren't the sort of person who feels as motivated to get things done, maybe you're struggling with your mental health, maybe you have physical health problems, or maybe you're just really busy, I hope that these tips can help you out. So first and foremost, I think it goes without saying that one of the best things that you can do is to make some kind of to-do list. I know that people can go way overboard in this department when it comes to planning, but you don't have to take it to that extreme if you don't want to. I'm the kind of person where I love planning and list making. I'm sure if you guys have watched my videos, you would know I'm really excessive. However, I could never get into the whole planner system. I tried that before. It only worked in high school when I was keeping track of tests and quizzes and project due dates and daily homework. But as an adult with a work schedule who has other obligations, I can't always say when I'm gonna have time during the week to work on things. That fluctuates. So for me, it's better to have a general list. So my system isn't like a crazy planner or a really complex bullet journal. It's really simple, and you can choose to divide this however it best suits you. You could do daily, weekly, monthly, or even just a to-do list that you don't redo until everything is checked off. So for example, maybe you put 10 things on the list, and once everything on that list is checked off, you write a new one. It really depends on what works for you, and this is going to be something that you're only going to know through a trial basis. So for me, I tried a lot of different things with keeping track of my doll collection. So originally I just had a old notebook from high school that I kept some things written in, random to-do lists, but because they weren't all compiled together in one place, sometimes my mind would kind of switch from different projects I wanted to work on, and months would pass, and then I'd see the list, realized I hadn't gotten very far on it, and I'd throw it out. I tried the daily approach, which, as I said, that just doesn't work for me. I can't sit down and plan what I'm going to do during the day step by step, because sometimes unexpected things come up, or maybe I'm cold, or maybe I've suddenly got the energy to work on something non-doll related. Weekly also doesn't work for me for the same reason, so I do monthly because that way it gives me a time frame to get things done. It kind of puts a little pressure on me, but it's more realistic for my schedule and the way that my days are set up. Again, that would all depend on your schedule and what works for you. I like to make subcategories on my lists. So for me, I do social media with dolls. I have a Flickr guide where I document all of my dolls, and I also do some fun stuff on there. I have a YouTube channel, plus there's doll maintenance, things that I want to get done with my collection, whether it's cleaning or reorganizing, etc. So I have my list broken down into 3 categories, and then I have a little separate one that I have called extras, which is anything that I did that I didn't originally plan to do, because sometimes a random fancy will strike me and I'll dive all in, and maybe I won't get as much done that I originally planned, but that way I still feel like I got things done. The idea of a to-do list isn't necessarily that every single thing gets crossed off, because we're all human, and I think that sometimes the reason why planner systems don't work is because it makes us feel like failures. That's definitely how I felt. So by having a more realistic monthly list for myself worked, and sometimes I would substitute things that I originally planned. Maybe it was a video idea that I changed, or like I said, I keep track of extra things I did that I didn't originally plan on doing. So I can look at that month in overview and see how much I did get done, and anything that I didn't, I can just circle and carry over to the next to-do list. I also find it's really helpful to keep my other lists within this same book. So I have two sketchbooks here. So this is my 2018 to-do list, and this is where I started the monthly kind of planning, and this is the one for this year. I will show you inside of these in a little bit. I have a bunch of other lists. If you watched my 2018 holiday edition of Dolly Diaries, you would know I have all kinds of separate lists. And the reason why these don't fit on my to-do list category is because these are things that are ongoing. So this one right here, so we have a series called My Story where we talk about how we got into a doll. It's like the written form of the Why I Love series here on YouTube. And we've been working on retaking these photos over time because we've gotten better at taking the photos and setting up the photos, and we have new backgrounds, so we can better put our ideas that we had in our heads and make them an actuality. So these are like, you know, this is an example of one list I have. So obviously there's a ton of things here, but I keep it with my monthly goals. And something I found really didn't work in this book is that originally I would set up each month as they came. So when January started, I did my to-do list for January, and then I would put random to-do lists in between, and then there would be February. So what I did for this year is I actually mapped out like January, February, March. I don't fill in any of the goals except for the month I'm on, but I have all my categories mapped out and my month, because that saves me time in the long run. I just did this when I was like binge watching CSI Miami with my sister. That way it's all ready for me to go, and part of why I chose to do that this year is because the notebook I'm using only has 24 sheets, so I wanted to make sure I had plenty of room for all of my monthly goals. And I still will be using some of the to-do lists out of here, maybe transferring some into here. So that's something to keep in mind. That way, all of your checklists and your ideas are together. Keep a whiteboard right by my computer, and I'll jot down notes to myself really quickly so that I don't forget things. And I find that this is good for maybe those smaller tasks that I don't want to forget about but aren't important enough to write on the monthly goals. Or maybe I'm going to later put them on a list, so I'll just jot down, fix this photo, or tag YouTube video, whatever kind of thing, or I'll keep track of where I am while doing something. Like I was recently fixing all my thumbnails here on YouTube, so I just make a little note to myself of like what video I left off on. And Colleen and I do this all the time. You guys have seen my whiteboard in the background of a lot of my videos, and there's always random crazy notes written on there. I find that's really helpful because that way you're not wasting paper, but you wouldn't want to keep all of your monthly goals on a whiteboard where it would get smeared and whatever. I mean, you can if you like that system, but I actually like to have a physical book with me because then I can like take it places. So while we're talking about goals, I think from my experience, one of the biggest mistakes that people make, myself included, is that we set this one end goal and we end up feeling completely daunted by the task of getting this done. So we end up not getting anything done. So something I've found works for me, and I've heard other people say, is to set smaller goals that build up to that bigger goal. So if you've ever had a look on my Flickr, you can see I have like 10,000 photos plus on there. I've been working on my doll guide for, it'll be 5 years in June, so since 2014, before I had Flickr, before I had YouTube. And the way that I motivated myself to keep going, to keep documenting all thousands of my dolls, was I set mini goals. And you'll see this a lot if you watch Dolly Diaries. Colleen and I will be working on photographing one container of dolls, or we'll be working on redoing one personal fun fact section in one album on Flickr. That really worked for me this past year. I'm a perfectionist, I'm a sucker for details, and even when I'm like done something, I like to go back and keep improving it. That's why photos are always getting replaced, and sometimes you'll see like my videos getting reorganized or the thumbnails changing. So by having the list last year, it really helped me feel motivated. And I set very small, realistic goals. So on every photo pretty much on my Flickr guide for dolls, I have a little section where I write a story about the doll, what they mean to me, how I got them, that kind of thing. And having so many dolls, like over 3,000, it's a very daunting task to have to go back and rewrite about just about all of them. Because in the beginning, I was just trying to get my guide up, so I was just uploading the pictures of the dolls and formatting them with like basic info. But as time went on, I added more information, and I wanted to write more personal things about dolls, especially as I got more comfortable writing. I feel like I got better at it. And in the past, when I tried, I would give up because it felt like this never-ending task that I was never going to accomplish. So by setting a goal of 20 personal fun facts every month, even if I didn't always meet it, sometimes I would do like 108 or 156 or 50 or 30. It really helped me feel like I was going somewhere and there was traction, and I wasn't just doing the same, staying in the same place. And this could be with anything. Whether it's that you want to start a YouTube channel, or you want to start a doll Instagram, or you want to reorganize your dolls, because something that a lot of people don't realize is my doll collection didn't get organized the way it is overnight. It took years for me to figure out the best ways to organize my dolls and their accessories and their clothes, and to get everything in an ideal setup, and it's constantly evolving. So by setting more realistic, small goals, it helped me build up and keep feeling motivated to work towards that ultimate big goal. The best advice I can say is that if you want to get something done, you just have to start doing something. Even if it seems useless in the beginning, it's better to get the ball rolling. It's better to start somewhere than make excuses for not doing it. I used to be like this all the time. I'm a very all or nothing person, and if something can't be done to my standard of perfect, I often don't feel like doing it. But even though I look back at photos or videos and I kind of wish I had waited until I had more skills to do those things, I realized that I got the skills that I have now by making ugly content or messing up. You have to put your foot in the door to get started. You're not going to be perfect at things and have a ton of skill at things unless you start small and work your way up. So if you want to start a YouTube channel, for instance, don't set conditions about, well, I need a fancy camera and fancy lighting and this and that. Just do it. Start filming on whatever camera you have with whatever crappy lighting you have. I didn't have a tripod when I started, and I ended up getting it a few months later, and it really helped, but I'm glad I just got my feet in the water and tried it out. And so this is just a comparison of my notebook from this year to my notebook from last year. The reason I opted to use sketchbooks is because I personally don't like lines when I'm doing to-do lists, because I don't know, I like to draw little check boxes, and I like to make like bigger, more cursive like font, and I just find the lines are an eyesore. I like them for some things, like these are my notes for the video, but for formal to-do lists that I'm going to be using for a while, I prefer this style. So you can see that I've changed it up a little bit, but I have my categories here, and obviously, like, most of you guys probably don't need things for social media, but you could have things you need to buy, like a shopping list for your dolls that month, or maybe you're selling things on eBay or somewhere else online, and you need to have a little like checklist of the things that you want to sell that week, or a spot for things that need to get organized, dolls that need to be cleaned, whatever you have. And you can see I fill in the boxes when I'm done. I changed it a little bit from last year, but you can see here that I bubbled around things that I hadn't gotten to, and then I have like tallies for my like fun facts. I kept all of my monthly goals together this year, and you could of course put little tabs as like page dividers so you know where to find things easily. So this is the only list so far that I've transferred, because we've changed some things up since Colleen got a new Molly doll. But you can see these are for our American Girl photo retakes, and I have everything like organized on here, and we started working in the Molly section. And likewise, I have different lists in here, but you can see how kind of inconvenient that was, that there's this list for doll clothes and then between January and February, and it gets much worse later on, especially with the longer lists. So I personally recommend keeping your daily, weekly, monthly goals in one area of your book, and then putting all of your, like, I don't know, lists for other projects in their own spot, maybe towards the back or something. Whether it's your workspace or your doll list, make it visually appealing to yourself, because as humans we like to look at things that are visually appealing. That's one of the reasons why I spend so much time on like thumbnails and photos for Flickr, and why I'm a sucker for details, because I know that the better something looks, the more likely someone's going to be willing to click on it. So me having a decorated dolly to-do list motivates me to want to pick up this book and look inside, and by writing in it in a pleasing way and making it neat and using different colors, like I have a bunch of these pens. I got the whole pack for $10 at Walmart. It just makes it more fun for me. But as you can see, these aren't like doodled all over. I don't have a ton of stickers. It's not like some bullet journaling you see where people spend hours upon hours adding in all of this fancy unnecessary stuff. I mean, I would love to do that, but I just don't have time. So you can make it look visually appealing without putting a ton of effort into it. So as you can see, I finished decorating it, and it has a shine to it because I had some scrap clear contact paper that I put over the top, and I taped it down from the inside for extra sturdiness, so that way it doesn't start peeling like my one from last year. Saved duplicated catalogs and things, and I cut out different pictures, and I sometimes save box art like from Easy Dawn Dancer, and just tons and tons of stickers I've accumulated over the years from like dolls, like that's from one of my Bratz kids, some old Lisa Frank stickers. To stay organized. This seems kind of obvious, but being organized really goes a long way, because when you have a clear space, you have a clear mind. At least I know for me that's true. I get really stressed out if things are blown apart, if things don't have a place. Honestly, get so stressed out and so anxious and so uncomfortable when things aren't just the way I need them to be. I make sure, so for instance, to keep my lists in a place that's easily accessible. I have a little like slot on my computer desk that I can slide both my notebooks in and pull them out. I also have like this notebook here that I have my list for this video written in, that has smaller things like video ideas and whatnot. So that way, if I say I have a video idea, I can just pull out the notebook and jot it down really quick. Or if I'm working on something that pertains to my to-do list, I can pull out my to-do list and check it off. It makes it so much easier when there's a spot for everything, and if you organize things in a way that makes it accessible. I also have designated spots in my like art room, craft room, doll room office where I have, say, a basket for dolls that need things done, whether they need photo retakes, whether they need to be cleaned, whether they need to be repaired. I have a basket just for them. I have a little basket just for clothes that need to be mended. I have a little case where I keep any small items, whether I have dolls that are being dried right at the time so their clothes are safe, or if I need to fix a necklace or something. By having a space for your different projects, for things that you're working on, even if it's just like a spot to keep naked dolls before you get them dressed, or things before you photograph them, it makes it so much easier, honestly. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I found it made a huge difference. And you don't necessarily need to set aside a lot of space for this, just enough so that you have spots for things so they don't get lost. So on top of my desk, please excuse the dust, it gets really dusty up here fast, I have really easy to access whiteboard markers with my eraser here, pens and pencils, my special pens that I use. They're like felt tip, permanent markers. I also keep labels for my doll bags for their clothes accessible, and therefore it's all right near the whiteboard. And then this is the slot where I keep my notebooks so I can pull them out really quickly. I have this little basket that I got at Walmart. I think it was a few dollars. You can get things like this at the dollar store, and there's nothing in here right now, but if I need to fix a doll or if I have dolls to photograph, this is where they sit, anything like kind of larger. And then this little Bratz case that I've had for years and years, this is where I keep my doll's clothes, maybe jewelry that's broken that needs to be fixed for them, etc. Anytime my dolls are undressed and being bathed, that's where their things go. I haven't had any problems with things getting lost. In the past, before I used this system, I remember my ocean friend's Kyra, I left her bathing suit and her little fanny pack on the dining room table, and I'm pretty sure Oliver stole the fanny pack and I never saw it again. I also have these bins in this cube, and I keep recycled Ziplocs that are easy to access for when I'm bagging doll clothes. And then in here, this is where I keep things that I haven't finished with yet. So I have like these potpourri bags that I have yet to fill, and I also have the pouches I made for the potpourri that they're all sewn, but I just need to find time to put the potpourri in there and tie it off and put them in my doll clothes. And this empty one has nothing in it right now, and this is where I keep my doll mending. And I also like to make sure to set aside time at some point once in a while to clean up my space and to get like small little tasks done that maybe aren't on my to-do list. But say I have a doll and her earring broke, I try to find time just to really quickly put the earring back together so the doll can go back downstairs where she belongs. And that way there's never too much chaos in an ideal world in my doll room where I work on things. Obviously things do get messy. It's hard to keep things 100% organized all the time, especially if you have new dolls and maybe you need to open them up, or maybe they need to be cleaned, maybe there's a large volume of things, or you did shopping for supplies for some kind of doll craft project and you need to put them away. But it's good to just every so often stay on top of that, because I find I get really stressed out and I don't want to be in rooms where there's a lot of clutter and things laying around. So I try maybe once a week to go around and pick up things and put them away and do little tasks just to get those dolls where they need to be, or the materials, etc. And also you can even make sure to set aside time in the day to work on certain things. So for me, I know in the morning that's the best time for me to do computer work for whatever reason. I think it's because after I eat breakfast, it's usually still pretty early and it's too cold to like bring firewood in, or too dark to film videos. That for me is, say, a good time to work on like typing things on the computer or whatever. And then in the afternoon, when my chinchillas are running rampant in the living room, that's a good time for me to work on more like crafty things. So sometimes I'll write my monthly goals while they're running around the living room. You have to find small windows of time in your schedule to plan to do certain tasks, and you'll find it easier as you go on. You don't necessarily need huge chunks of time to get things done. Even if you only get like 10% of something done, it's better than not getting anything done at all. So I hope this video could help you guys out, help you find ways to stay motivated and productive. It's a work in progress, and I definitely recommend starting out with smaller goals, lesser tasks, and slowly adding and working your way up. And if you know that you're going to have a busy month or a busy week, don't burden yourself with tons of tasks. The point of a to-do list is to do things on the list, maybe not all, but there's no point in feeling like you're going to be productive and overexerting yourself and overestimating how much you can get done and having basically a book of things that you're not actually doing. So I did modify my list as I went on, and of course this is all through trial and error. You're only going to know what's realistic and practicable when you actually put things into practice. So I hope this video helped you guys out, and until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.